Hey everybody, it's PC here, and today I'm talking about the CCU changes. I know I'm a little late on the whole thing, but every time I go to make it, they say they're going to do another update, which they're going to do it again in like, I think 4 days by the time this comes out, so I'm just done, and we're going to just make it the way it is. So as of the recording of 8/22/2020, this is kind of how things are, and we're going to talk about things that are going on in CCU that I like and I don't like, and the overall opinion on everything. So I'm going to just give the overall opinion right off the bat. I think it's good. Now that's going to be very controversial, and I'm going to go over why I think it's good. And obviously, I think a lot of people once again overreacted, as you saw in the beginning of the video. Every time something changes, people freak out, and I think we need to just kind of go over and think about things before we start rapidly posting things that are ridiculous and not just doing a nice discussion on things, but instead just complaining about everything. Alright, so let me talk about some bad things. So first of all, I want to go over some damages, which I think is the biggest problem. They did a one-size-fit-all formula for basically damage. They said, hey, here's the speed, here's where it is in the combo and the type of attack, and just threw it in the formula and saw how it goes. Now, the problem with this is that it kind of didn't work out that well, and I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to start with LB because it really affects me the most when I'm playing LB. So LB, the big one that's messed up is his light parry punish with the ad mortem on top. It does 24 damage now. Does a good chunk of stamina damage, but 24 is like less than a top heavy, which is why everyone just waits for the top heavy now, because that does 32 plus a little bit of stamina damage. So there's really no reason to even do ad mortem anymore. On top of that, also, his stunning tap thing only does 11. I don't know what was, I don't know why 15 is a problem. I think 15 would be fine, but once again, I guess it's the formula just doing that. I usually only use that to, just quickly switch between targets. When I get a parry, just slap them real quick, stun them, and be able to go on to the next target and start fighting, but now it just feels like, I don't know, I don't get enough of a punishment or damage or stamina out of it, so now I have to kind of just always use the zone attack on them, which costs a lot more stamina, and I can still get hit with it. If the attacks hit at the same time, I'm still going to eat it with, even with my armor, which we'll get into that later. And then on to the really big issues are all the assassins, which they just basically took a bat to and nailed all of them in the head for a ton of damage. Shino's deflect kick doing 28, which I guess wasn't that bad, but it's still the fact that the kick deflect into heavy is also not necessarily guaranteed. If you do a misinput or you throw it the wrong way or whatever, you'll end up having it blocked and then you get like no damage. And then also his deflect slash doing, I think, 10 damage. I believe it was 10 damage when I tested it, which is, once again, nothing whatsoever. And then another huge offender is PK side dodge doing 16, and that's with bleed, so it's going to be damage over time, which gives you a lot of time to just get killed during that. I'd be much more okay with 20, but I think it was just the formula that messed up. So that's another good thing. We're moving on to armor now. Armor, they got rid of Highlander, or not Highlanders, Lawbringer's armor, and on shove, I disagree and agree with it. If you want to get rid of it from there, I feel like it should go somewhere else. We're talking about a 300-pound fully armored halberd man that on his finishers and top heavies and all this other stuff doesn't get armor, while meanwhile we have a crazy axe man that throws around an axe with bare skin and somehow gets armor on everything, which doesn't make sense at all. Or in general, I would say just keep the armor. I never had an issue with what the armor issue was. If I hit him, I still hit him, and I would only eat, a little bit of damage and go into, his mix-up or whatever, not his mix-up, but into his combo. And I still just, once again, I saw no real issue with it. But now that lights are so fast and the chains are so fast, you can pretty much just always hit him out of it. And that's kind of stupid, and I don't like that. But that's, once again, just my opinion. Then moving on to speed, all the lights have pretty much been sped up, and this is fine for a good chunk of people that had ridiculously slow lights that didn't make any sense. And that kind of brings us into the next person, Highlander. His second light was completely useless. Like, everyone be honest here, was completely useless. If you threw that, it was probably just a complete shot in the dark, a misinput or something. It never would connect or work. However, they went with the 400 ms light, or 500 ms light with the 100 ms like indicator, and now it's just instantaneous, and he looks so jank, and it doesn't make any sense. But I also want to put up a counterpart to that, which is one we'll move into the good. But when they did that to characters like this, it kind of, speed in this way kind of became a bad thing. But it's still manageable, so let me move into the good things now. So good things. I want to go right into this immediately while we're talking about speed. Frame advantage on blocking. Please, watch my video on it. Talk to people about it. Look it up. Look at the patch notes. Anything. Because it doesn't say it like right away, and they didn't make it, advertised enough. If you block a light, and someone is truly light spamming, and I mean mashing that light button, and you block one of them and then hit the light right after you block them, yours connects first every time. I tested this with multiple characters on multiple things, and it always usually seemed to hit. I haven't really came across anything that really it didn't work on. So if you're having this issue and someone really is truly just light spamming you to death, get good at blocking up and just do a light after and get the pressure going again. And then of course, usually, like I said, if they're only throwing lights, that as soon as you see an indicator, parry. It's that kind of stuff, that thinking that people need to start getting into, and that's where I see a large amount of complaining going to, and how I get so upset about that, where it's like, that was the point kind of thing, make lights better. I know this is kind of a little bit of a frizzle up, but you gotta adapt. It's core combat change. You gotta change. That's the point of it, to make things a little bit better. And yeah, there's gonna be some major changes that might make things worse, but hopefully they get fixed. And like I said, as of making this video, I think there's another patch coming in the next week, so I have no idea what's going to happen then. They'll probably fix some of these damages, I'm hoping. Either way. Moving on from that, I'm going to put another good one on speed, though. You were just talking about how speed's bad. Let's talk about how speed's good. I just talked about how having these lights now that were completely useless are good now. Let me also talk about the ones that were too fast, didn't make any sense, like LB's top light, without it having any animation and going lightning fast. It's now been changed to be a little bit slower. The animation looks better, I guess. I don't know if they changed it, but it just looks better in my mind, and it seems much more blockable, maybe even parryable if you do a good prediction and you have, a good reflex. I think it's possible, and it does, pretty good rewarding damage for most people. And then there's some good damage changes. Highlander no longer is this man who slaps you for a ridiculous amount of damage of either 45 to 40 on heavies. And same with Jormungandr, no longer doing the 50 damage nut slam. And the shaman bite as well. I think these were all good damage changes, because for so many characters, eating 3 or 4 of these, I think Highlander, it was, I think at least half of the faction eating 4 heavies was the end of it, for offensive, or if it wasn't offensive, even defensive. If you ate 4 heavies, that killed at least more than half the roster, which is ridiculous. I don't think anybody should have that quick of a kill, which is why I'm glad that this kind of CCU came out to kind of draw out fights a little bit longer with the damage changes in those areas. So I want to say, please take a look at those also when you're looking at the, the 24 damage LB finisher. Also think, well, at least I'm not getting slapped so hard by Highlander and Shaman and Jormungandr anymore. And everything's kind of been standardized in those zones as well. Second thing is that we talked about lights, and we talked about the frame advantage and everything else, and I want to talk about how the lights, I think, are a good thing. Like I said, for all characters now having these fast lights, openers are more available to them, and they're able to get into their combos more. Not saying that now this makes every character good and all of them have an opener or anything like that, but it's more of, hey, the people with the really telegraphed lights like Nobushi and stuff like that have become monsters now. Anybody who's fought in Nobushi nowadays, a good one, it is scary. It is horrifying how good they can be, how fast they move, and things like that. You have to make predictions, you have to block, you have to actually get good at doing this because of the fast attacks and the actual learning of it. So I think they made, a couple of good characters very useful in this, but once again, there's some that was simply too fast like Highlander, and it just didn't make any sense. So once again, I hope that they change this stuff in the future, and things will slowly get better as they go on. Once again, I want to touch on the prediction and learning in fights. Fights are going to be longer, hopefully. I haven't seen any, I feel fights go on longer, and I feel like I have more time to adapt and learn and fight people longer, and I don't get as upset when I simply just get bitten by a shaman and lose half my HP while she gets all of it back and then does one zone to me and kills me. I don't feel like this no longer is I don't feel like I'm just getting slapped and destroyed within making one mistake, necessarily. Next, we're gonna move on to the stamina thing. A lot of people are upset about the stamina. There are some problems, like the Shaolin light thing. I believe that got fixed though. So basically, for anyone who didn't know at the time, all lights got changed up to 12 stamina drain. I think 8 would have been okay, maybe 10, but I think 12 is a bit much. And then for anyone who had chain lights like Warden or Shaolin that would do light, and they would all be guaranteed, they all costed 12, or I think at least 10, and that was ridiculous. You would just, a single light attack and a single light combo would draw you out of stamina. But I want to focus on some good things once again here. You're no longer going to get completely destroyed by Warden and just get bashed over and over and over again due to the stamina drain. Orochi has kind of been put in the ground, but now we kind of see that that's been, dealt with, where it's not just Orochi's going over and baiting out an attack to just do top lights over and over again without any stamina problem. Centurion no longer can just do this almost what feels like infinite mix-up of getting my face punched in from just light over light over light over light over light, or spamming lights in general. So I feel like that was a really good change overall, and just having this stamina drain isn't a bad thing. I think maybe a little bit lower, and definitely make sure that the chain lights on people aren't going to be these massive drains where they're going to go out mid-combo. I think that's absolutely insane. And then I touched on the frame advantage, and then that's kind of it. I don't see too much stuff that's really wrong with this. I've kind of addressed some people's complaints about the stamina stuff. I know the lights and things are issues, the zone attacks are, but another good one that I want to bring up for an example was, and this was a massive one that makes me want to pick up Glad again. For any of you who aren't gladiators or didn't play Glad at all, or didn't notice this while playing or against him, or seeing him, whenever Glad did a light into his skewer, simply at full stamina, a light that costed I think like 8 stamina or something silly like that, and then into his unblockable, if you parried that, if he threw it and you parried it, he was out of stamina. That was ridiculous. That was stupid, and that was insane. The fact that all of a sudden this man runs out of stamina from literally trying to throw one unblockable so that you and your stupid block-ups, turtling in the corner, stopped. I know toe stab could have worked in that situation as well, but for those who don't want to use toe stab over and over again, and I want to get big damage on you, I want to be able to throw it without having this huge detriment of, if I get parried, I'm screwed. So now I think I can throw it about 3 times without running out of, or on the 3rd time I'll run out of stamina. And I think that's fun and fair. And the thing is, though, also his didn't get too nerfed on his Impale. Same thing with Berserker, because they get, basically guaranteed heavies at walls and jump-in attacks. So overall, I guess they also sadly got a little bit too much of a boost by this or whatever. Well, not so much as Berserker, but him. So yeah, there's some good and bad. I hope everyone looks on more of the good side here. There are some things that are annoying, but there's ways around them. Fights are going to take longer, you have more time to adapt. Lights cost more stamina, so true light spam is not going to continue. Highlander is a little bit messed up at the moment. There are problems, but look at the frame advantage blocking, watch videos on that, anything else. Learn from it, and once again, just try and give them feedback, and don't go on Reddit posting bullshit all the time. And I hate having to say that and be so harsh about it, but my god, every time I go on there, I don't go on there anymore. I just have friends send me stuff at this point, but it's a complete just complain pool. No one gives any good feedback, and when it is, it's absolutely insane. Like, oh, Shaman's Bite should be doing 60 instead and heal her for full health because how much you're bleeding should, fuel her for her whole health bar kind of thing, and I look at that and I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and then it goes the other way where LB should actually be doing 10 damage on his heavies, and I'm like, where are you? Where did you come from? Have you played the game? But at the same time, just keep the arguing and the complaining down to a minimum, boys and girls. It's just a game. They're working, they're trying. I know that it seems like sometimes they don't play their own game, and I think, yes, they do huge mistakes, like, there were some huge mistakes here, but I'm sure that they haven't just completely given up on the thing, because if they did, well, I feel like we'd be feeling it a lot more than this, as there would be completely broken characters and things. And I know a lot of people are saying, they might say this character's overpowered now, or Highlander's overpowered now. I want people to really quickly think about the word overpowered and when you use it, and broken when you use it. Overpowered might be an okay and acceptable term to use things, and I always say it's probably just when you're fighting a specific character. But one I really want to point out is broken. I want broken to be more of a term used for Old Centurion Season 2, and, you know, Warden one-shot, and stuff like that. That stuff was broken, because it wasn't supposed to be like that in the game, or it was a simple, really overtune that did not work for the game whatsoever. Some people might say, oh, well, you know, these things don't work for the game whatsoever. I don't see everybody picking up, you know, LB now to get those 40 damage wall punishes with the impales, you know? I don't see everybody picking up Highlander now to start spamming lights. You just see a little bit more of them. You know why? Because they're not broken. If something was truly broken, you'd see it everywhere all the time. And I know a lot of people are probably seeing Warmonger and a whole bunch of opinions about Warmonger out, but that's for an entirely different video to be able to talk about how Warmonger is one way or the other. So I'm going to just leave it here. This is my CCU change opinion. Once again, it's an opinion. Feel free to share with me. I'm always up for conversation, but not arguing. If we can't stand on one point, agree to disagree, and do that for all your other fellow For Honor players, and stop just making this overly ridiculous comments and discussions, quotation marks, and screaming with all caps and going into super ridiculous detail where it doesn't even matter to that point. Like, there's always a limit, guys. And when you're sitting there typing out paragraphs, I think you need to read them again yourself and realize, maybe I'm taking this too far. But either way, I'll talk to you guys later.